A very good morning, welcome along to round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We're in Madrid, the second ever visit to Spain in Formula E's history, and a new circuit for our drivers to contend with here in the capital of this wonderful country. Sadly, unfortunately, the weather has not followed us around this circuit. It is damp this morning after some overnight rain. It's not currently raining, but it is going to be a bit of a venture into the unknown for FP2 this morning. My name is Tom Brooks, alongside me Sam Bird and James Roster here to guide you through the action for FP2 today. Sam, what are we expecting now for FP2? Damp circuit, qualifying's not that far away. How relevant is this session going to be?
It's going to be super relevant, Tom, because these kind of conditions with this air temperature that we've got right now, I don't think this is going away quickly. These tyres, they don't get rid of water very well, so I think that this greasy, cold, damp track is here to stay, so the drivers and the teams will have to work hard to make sure that the car is in the window.
Yeah, you're right, James. FP1 yesterday, we saw Dan Tictum quickest, Nick de Vries was second, Max Günther was third, so a real sort of mixture of powertrains up there. With the damp conditions this morning, do you think we should expect much of the same, or do you think there could be one particular manufacturer that's stronger than the other?
I think this circuit is a real driver's circuit. We're going to see the drivers being able to make a big difference in their performance over the course of the day. Super tricky conditions, and with a circuit with absolutely no room for error and no runoff really other than gravel and then a grass, and wet grass, it almost feels like you accelerate in the car when you hit it and the wall comes very quickly. So I think we're going to see the guys go out, be a bit tentative in those first few laps, try and build up some tyre temperature, and then we're going to see where the real pecking order stands.
Porsche currently leading all 3 championships in Formula E. Drivers with this man here, Pascal Wehrlein, the team's championship, as you can see, 27 points, the advantage they have over Jaguar. They're also in front in the manufacturer's race as well. Bit of a weekend of 2 halves for Pascal Wehrlein. Last time out in Jeddah, won the race on the Friday. On the Saturday, he was 8th at the checkered flag. But we know the Porsche team, they're pretty handy in conditions such as this. But if you look back to when we were in Miami, in cool conditions in the wet, it was actually Jaguar that were the fastest team of them all, as the capacity crowd makes their way into the circuit.
Yeah, super exciting to see all the fans arriving already at the track. It's, yeah, I mean, Pascal did a brilliant job in the first race, in the pit boost race, which we do have here this weekend. And yeah, then he struggled, didn't he, in the second race in Jeddah.
But what he's been is consistent. I think 8th is his worst finish of the season so far, and that's what you want, that's what you need if you're going to mount a championship charge in Formula E. It's not like other championships like WEC or Formula 1 where, you know, you are expected to be first or second if you've got the best car every single race. This championship's so different. Anybody can win a race on any weekend, so to be in the top 8 all the time shows true consistency.
See Pepe Marti here, new livery on the CUPRA Kiro machine this weekend. This is the CUPRA Raval Madrid E-Prix, the Raval being a new model from the CUPRA manufacturer. As such, they've got a new livery to celebrate that, and of course a special helmet designed for Pepe Marti. His home race in Formula E as well for the Spaniard. Don't believe it's a circuit he's actually had any experience at, despite of course being a Spanish native. But yeah, keen to see how he's going to fare this weekend. Do you think that that sort of home race nature is going to add a bit of pressure on his shoulders?
I suppose so, yes. But I think as well, like he's new, he's a rookie to Formula E. I don't think he's got too much pressure. If he was in his second year, third year, yeah, he would be expected to deliver a really good result for his Spanish fans. But coming here as a rookie, I think the pressure's off. He can just go out and enjoy his first home race.
Yeah, looking here at Sebastian Buemi, great start to the season that the Swiss driver has had. You know, the Swiss drivers in Formula E on a bit of a roll at the moment in terms of pole positions. The last 4 poles in FE they've taken consecutively, which has never been done in the history of the championship.
So that's Muller and
Mortara
and
Buemi.
And Buemi, yeah.
All 3.
Impressive for a country with no motorsport.
It's not bad, is it? Jane Dennis in the Andretti. Let's see how he is going to fare this weekend. Just got a new deal in his back pocket, signed with that team on a multi-year agreement for the future, going into Gen 4 and hopefully beyond for the Season 9 World Champion. But we're now moments away from getting FP2 underway as Dennis creeps out of the garage and the 20 drivers will filter out onto the circuit for free practice 2 this morning in the damp conditions here in Madrid.
So you'll notice all the drivers pretty much this morning will be running a clear visor due to the fact that it's overcast and damp. You want the best visibility possible to notice any tarmac changes, whether it's getting slightly lighter if the track is drying, and visibility is going to be absolutely key if there is any spray.
Yeah, and spray, well, looks to be the order of the day at the moment. As you can see them sliding their way out of pit lane. I assume that's probably to get some temp in the rear tyres there, James.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, trying to build tyre temperature is so difficult when you go out first thing in the morning. It's cold temperatures, damp track. It's going to be probably 4 or 5 laps before we see them getting the tyres in the correct window.
Yeah, 4 kilometres long this circuit, just under. The longest track we go to on the Formula E calendar. Actually, in terms of the race duration, in terms of number of laps, it's actually the shortest we've ever had in Formula E. 21 laps scheduled for the E-Prix this afternoon. You can see race control indicating it's a wet circuit, as if we didn't already know, and that's why drivers are sliding their way around, coming uphill into turn 5. James, this is a corner that you were at yesterday with Karun in FP1, and I have to say, watching it on the screen, it looked mega. Trackside, it must have been even better.
Absolutely brilliant corner. You come out of turn 4, you have to get the car over to the right-hand side of the track, and then you have to throw the car with the most amount of confidence up this hill into turn 5. The car's compressed in the middle of the apex. You see them bottoming out, and you can see the drivers really hanging on as they carry so much speed through that corner. It's really impressive to see at the side of the circuit.
So one thing, Tom, that you'll notice that's different is the run plan for this FP2 compared to a dry FP2, for example. What we'd see normally on a dry track is people doing out, then a couple of prep laps, then a push, a cool down, then a push again. In these conditions, the drivers will pretty much be pushing from the out lap and just doing push after push, because the more tyre temp you get, the faster you're going to go.
And in terms of tyre temperature, that's one thing, but tyre pressures have been another point of discussion as well.
Yes.
Actually running quite high pressures. What's the reason behind that?
Well, because the higher the pressure, the more the tyre is going to work. There was a point, I think, last season or the season before, where DS Penske figured this out more than anybody else and actually had double the tyre pressure of most other teams in a practice session in Mexico. The FIA then clamped down on that. Now there is an upper limit of 2.7, whereas in the dry, people are running at the minimum pressure of 1.2.
Right, okay. I mean, I heard rumours at one point they were running up to sort of like 4 or 5 bar, which is PSI, that's about 50 to 60, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy, really, when you think about it like that. But I have to say, I'm loving this track in terms of just the nature of it, the fact it's punishing mistakes as well. In FP1 yesterday, we saw a few drivers running wide, clipping the dirt and the gravel. We saw Dan Tictum, quickest man from FP1. He actually ended up in the gravel down at the first corner.
So the circuit's great, isn't it? It's a real driver's track.
Yeah, circuit is so fun to drive. James, you've driven this track before. I was here last year in the pre-season testing. Good news, I think, for all the drivers is they're not going to be limited by spray. So looking at the way that the cars are driving around now, there's limited spray. It looks really slippery, super greasy and cold. It's going to be challenging, but visibility shouldn't be an issue.
And I suppose as well, the fact that this is quite an undulating circuit, a lot of camber in the corners, even though we are expecting a little bit of rain sort of mid-morning, just actually in the middle of qualifying, funnily enough, that if it does happen, it should sort of run off quite easy. We won't get a lot of standing water pooling around the track.
Yeah, and until they come to the flat start-finish straight.
Yeah, that's true.
So
It has a little bit of a crown in the road there. I think that the main thing is here is that the asphalt is quite coarse, so it's very bumpy, as let's say, if you look at the fine detail of it. So the water does drain off, and you do see it does look like they're getting quite a lot of grip out there actually for how cold it is.
Just saw Ian James there on his phone, probably whether he's specking his new Land Rover or something, I'm not 100% sure, or probably replying to important messages back at base for the Gaydon factory. But Jaguar, as we know, quite quick in the wet. If you look back to Miami at the start of the season, really impressive in the cold and damp conditions, similar to what we've got here today.
yeah, the Jaguar have been impressive in the wet, especially last year. That's when they started to come alive. I think they've got very good systems within that car, so they've worked very, very hard on the software. One of the things that teams will do in order to gain more tyre performance, to get more temperatures, we see Pascal Wehrlein throw in the car through the middle sector there, but one of the things they'll do is they'll turn their attention to having more hydraulic braking instead of regenerative braking to gain more temperature through the brakes on the front axle. that then will hopefully add more tyre temperature.
Yeah, looking here at the two Porsches then, Pascal Wehrlein and Nico Müller, really close to one another on the circuit, and Wehrlein leaving nothing on the table here, sliding his way through that right-hander as he makes his way down the hill and in towards turn number 9.
I think he's been taking driving lessons from Dan Tictum last night.
Just armfuls of lot going into the corner, isn't he?
It looks like a lot of fun out there, that's for sure.
Certainly does. It's a bit of a karting technique, you see that, don't you? Sometimes drivers who, when they're on slick tyres in wet conditions, they'll throw armfuls along, get understeer into the machine just to try and get the front sort of rotated, stop spinning. Doesn't seem to be so much of a problem here, but it's interesting to see how different it is to drive a car in these conditions compared to fully dry.
I think Wehrlein also knows that this is not going to be his quickest lap. He's just gaining temperature right now for later on in the session when the tyres are in a much better window.
Let's see now, on board with him, how he is going into turn 1. Big braking here.
Let's have a look at Jake Dennis, meanwhile, fellow Porsche powered car, and he's had a run-off down at the first corner. I think he's just been able to live to fight another day, but you see just how deep it is, that gravel there as well, and that's going to really punish drivers if they make similar mistakes in the race.
Oh, he was lucky there, wasn't he,
Yeah.
James? Super lucky to get out. It looked like he was going to stop, but remember that the gravel trap now is damp as well, so it's going to stop cars if they get in there. He was very, very fortunate to keep those rear wheels spinning and keep a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, in a way, it's better when you know you're going in the gravel. It's better to release the brake and try to carry the speed and get out the other side of it. So look here, he just locks the front a little bit over one of the bumps, and then he's just a bit of a passenger.
Yeah, you see the rear sliding his way through and just runs out of road to try and correct it straight off into the gravel trap. Thankfully, not too much harm done. Full attack mode laps coming in now for Nico Müller. Nick de Vries is just about to pop one in there as well. So we were talking about the delta, the difference between 300 and 350 kilowatts, so two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. I imagine that it was, what, 2 seconds in the drive. That's going to be exemplified even further.
It's going to be huge in the damp conditions. When you drive these cars in the wet at 350, the car comes alive, and all of a sudden you feel like you've got some traction. You've got a lot more ability on corner exits. In the wet conditions at 300, the car on traction is so challenging.
When we go to qualifying, James, what do you think we should be looking to expect in terms of the groups and then subsequently going into the duels? Is that sort of all relative, depending on what the conditions turn out to be, or do you think we should see sort of one run for the majority of that session in the groups?
I think there's so many unknowns today with the conditions that we're going to see a lot of frantic entertainment.
Yeah, certainly are. Well, you can see Mitch Evans and Antonio Felix da Costa pretty close to one another on track. Da Costa has just gone up to 3rd, Evans into 4th. Rowland has gone to top of the class in the Nissan. As we ride on board here with Nico Müller, making his way through. This is into the left-hander of turn number 3. This is Le Mans corner, as it's known.
Remember, Müller was very strong in Miami in kind of similar conditions, so the Porsche works well in the damp and in the cold. We've seen that obviously 2 races ago, so expect him to go quite well as he's gone purple in sector 1.
Yeah, he's on a full attack mode lap here, is Nico Müller. You can see that with the blue lights that are illuminated on the back of the car, just how much more grip and traction he's got. He's being held up a little bit here by Jean-Eric Vergne, and he's going to go around his outside with relative ease. This will give us perhaps an indication as to what we could expect, the difference between attack mode and the traditional 300 kilowatt two-wheel drive mode that we'll have in the races. As we said, magnified even further by the conditions, but Müller getting the better of him quite easily there.
I'm quite impressed how much curb they can use, both on the apex and on the exit of corners, given how wet they are.
I think they're using the curb to actually turn the car, aren't they, in some situations. Müller there goes a little bit deep. Mind you, that could be his racing line in the damp for Nico Müller going through turn 10. But he would have been held up quite a lot there by Jean-Eric Vergne. Approaching the final chicane now, make sure that the braking's good, not using too much track and going over those white lines that would be quite slippery in these conditions.
The new tarmac in that chicane does look quite grippy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the circuit that's been modified actually prior to this weekend. So when we came here for pre-season testing, as Müller goes 3 seconds faster than Oliver Rowland.
And that's 3 seconds, Tom, with traffic. So that could have been closer to 4.
That's the difference between four-wheel drive in the wet, then.
There we go. Now we know. Let's wait and see how that continues to develop over the remainder of this session. De Vries has just gone up into second fastest to decrease that gap down ever so slightly, as Roland's sitting there in fourth place, just fighting a bit of oversteer going into turn one. But just to finish that point I was saying about a couple of moments ago, the track's been modified prior to this weekend. They've built out the chicanes. When we came here for pre-season testing a couple of years ago, obviously it was a bit last minute with the floods in Valencia. We had a chicane put in on the start-finish straight. It went right to left, whereas now it goes left to right. That's been built out. They've extended the circuit over to the left-hand side. So, just under 30 minutes to go in FP2. We've got Oliver Roland currently fourth quickest, but he's on a personal best run at the moment in that Nissan. Let's go down and catch up with the team principal of that outfit, Tommaso Volpe. He's in the pit lane talking to Georgia.
Yeah, good morning, Tom. We're here with Tommaso. Obviously, conditions a bit tricky right now, and they're definitely going to change before the race today. So they've gone back and forth on the broadcast about what you can get out of this session. But I'd like to hear from you. What are your points that you really want to hit during the session?
Well, for sure, we need to get ready for quali, and it's the most important thing, and trying to understand where we can find more performance. We didn't manage well the session yesterday. We mismanaged it, to be honest, and so for us it's even more important to do well in this session.
Can you do that in these conditions?
Of course, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. So we'll try to make the most out of it.
It definitely seems like the pace has been picked up from yesterday. What changed?
Well, to be honest with you, yesterday a lot was compromised by the red flag, and we didn't manage well, operationally speaking, not really the car. So the way when we tried the fast lap and the tires were not ready, and we lost one lap, and so it was more a mismanagement from the garage. So we just tried to do some things more well organized today, and to get the most out of it.
Thanks for the time, Tommaso.
No problem.
Lovely to hear from Tommaso. Thank you to him, and thank you to Georgia down in pit lane there as well. Norman Nato on a full attack mode lap, going slightly deep down at the first corner there, but gathering it all up okay. See what he's going to be able to do. 17th fastest. He was the slowest of all 20 drivers in free practice 1 yesterday. 3 seconds off of the pace.
Yeah, he didn't manage to do a 350 lap yesterday. He had a very scrappy session, Tom.
What was that down to? Was that down to technical problems or just run plan?
A bit of run plan, a bit of traffic, and looking at the data, I mean, I think he completed 1.5 push 300 laps, and that was it. So really not collecting too much data there for Norman Nato, and it was similar-ish on the other side of the garage with Ollie. Ollie managed to get a 350 lap in, but it was compromised again. Such is the nature of the circuit in the drive. We're now, watching Norman Nato hustling his Nissan car through and into the middle sector as he has a huge snap. That's definitely probably half a second or more lost there at the beginning of the third sector. So I would say a little bit of work to do for him.
Well held. Great save.
I still think he might go into the top 3 with this lap.
But nobody else has, apart from the Porsches, actually completed a 350 lap yet.
Let's see what Norman Nato can do despite that mistake in sort of going into the final sector. Out of the last chicane we go for the Frenchman. He's going to move his way up the order, but how far is the question? And it's into third quickest. James, do you have the lottery numbers for next Tuesday?
No. Hopefully I can predict the grid later then.
Let's have a look then. Going into turn 9, this is.
Oh, big snap right in the middle of the corner.
Beautifully held. He did a good job to stop that from going around on him.
Yeah. As Da Costa now quickest in sector 1, so the track is ramping up slightly. Porsche have gone early on their first push 350. Whoa, that is right on the lock stops there. No wonder he's a second and a half off the Porsches, but right now he's third out of 3 with regards to people who have done a full push 350. Da Costa, though, into the middle sector. We're going to get his sector 2 time imminently, pushing down the hill now, hard braking into this left-hander, and he's a 10th and a half up on Wehrlein.
Bit of a Noah's Ark formation going on the timing screen at the moment. The 2 Porsches, the 2 Nissans, and then the 2 Mahindras. But I think Costa is going to start to spoil the party of those 3 teams as we head through the final sector. This is turn 10, past the DHL banners, coming down in towards turn 11. The fast right-hander before the start-finish straight away. It's just the chicane breaking this up, and Da Costa, a man on the move at the moment after taking victory in Jeddah just over 30 days ago. Let's see what this does for the Portuguese driver in terms of his position in this free practice 2 session, and it's to the top of the order. 0.4 of a second better than Pascal Wehrlein, nearly half a second in his pocket, all being told.
Yeah, it looks like the Jaguar is working well under longitudinal braking. Actually, Tom, he's quickest in Sector 1 and Sector 3, 2 of the areas where you've got big longitudinal braking zones into Turn 1 and into the final chicane. Pascal Wehrlein, quickest of everybody in Sector 2, the more kind of lateral area of the track, I would say.
Down the start finish straight, here's Taylor Barnard. Something of a quiet weekend for him so far, but he was 5th quickest in FP1 here yesterday. You see Google Gemini says that Nico Miller left roughly 0.3 on the table in Sector 2, missing out on the even quicker theoretical lap time. Still would leave him a little bit of a way off of his teammate Pascal Wehrlein at the moment.
Well, we saw him get that traffic with Jean-Eric Vergne. I thought he definitely caught more than 0.3 there. He had to brake early, then go round the outside of Jean-Eric Vergne, going offline, which would have compromised his minimum speed. He would have done more track distance and his throttle input on the exit.
Barnard making his way through at Turn 5. See the crowd there watching on in the background. Capacity crowd expected for today, which is really wonderful to see. They've actually had to build a new grandstand at that final corner just to accommodate the Spanish crowd that are expected here this weekend. As Barnard makes his way through, personal best in Sector 1. 300 kilowatt lap here for Taylor Barnard. Loving that camera angle as we come down the hill and in towards Turn 9.
Yeah, this guy's so talented, Taylor Barnard. I was his teammate last year, and he put in some stonking performances. So quick on one lap, and he got to grips with Formula E racecraft so easily and quickly. He's been very, very impressive, but the results haven't quite come for him so far this year. I do still think he's got the chance of getting race wins this year, but so far, over the first, third of the season, it's been a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, a couple of points finishes in Jeddah, but they were only 10th places. 1/4 in Mexico is the highlight so far, and he goes up to 4th quickest as Taylor Barnard. Now, I wanted to touch on that point, actually, because there was news that came out a couple of days ago. DS are going to be leaving the championship at the end of this season. Opel will now be entering as a full factory effort from Gen 4 onwards, which is great news for Formula E. But where does that leave Penske in the equation? Subsequently, their 2 drivers of Max Günther and Taylor Barnard. Are they going to be seat shopping around?
So I spoke to somebody within the team, and they seem to be confident that the team's existence will be absolutely fine, which is great news for them and great news for Formula E. So maybe there'll be no movement. Maybe they'll be able to stay where they are, and the team will be called whatever it's called. As Zane Maloney goes into P3 and Lucas Di Grassi has a trip through the gravel, albeit a smaller one than Jake Dennis at Turn 1.
Yeah, you just see him going into there, and it looked like he was never going to get it stopped in a month of Sundays. Di Grassi managing to gather it all up without too much of a bother. Let's have another look at it. So we're down the start-finish straight into Turn 1. The car's going to get a little bit unstable.
Yeah, just too late on the brakes there and ran out of road. It was close. I think he was going for that sort of karting line, wide entry and then cutting back.
And yeah, just running out of road there for Lucas Di Grassi. And you see the wheel tracks of where Jake Dennis ran off earlier on, actually, for that matter.
But the track is definitely ramping up now. We've seen Zane Maloney up to P3, fastest of anybody in Sector 2. So people that are going to 350s soon or now should have a small advantage.
Zane Maloney's been progressing quite a lot this season. Last time out, we saw him almost make it into the duels in Jeddah. I think he missed out by less than half a tenth. And yeah, brilliant performance from the young man at the moment to be in P3 in that Lola.
Yeah, absolutely. Really impressive for Zane Maloney. I mean, the last time he scored points was 105 days ago in Sao Paulo at the start of the season, and would love to continue that sort of points tally that he started off in the beginning of season 12. The Lola car, as we know, is not the most competitive outfit there. There's a lot of emphasis on Gen 4 for that team. But yeah, if Zane can pull a result out of the bag, and subsequently Di Grassi on the other side of the garage as well, that'd be something for that outfit to smile about. Maloney currently 3rd fastest. Team radio for Vergne.
Problem is not really the brakes, just have no grip.
Yes. So Jeff struggling out there at the moment. You look at where he is. He's down in 20th. A guy of his talent should not be down there. And he's 7.1 seconds off the pace. Okay, he hasn't done the full 350 with all-wheel drive and traction control yet, but you would expect him to be around P7, P8, P9, and around 2 seconds off the pace, not 7.
I mean, 7 seconds, I don't know what to say. There must be something fundamentally wrong with the setup or with the tyres.
Yeah, all the cars in the pit lane bar Lucas Di Grassi at the moment. 20 minutes left on the clock here for free practice 2. What's this all about then here, Sam? Are they just making changes to the car for the last sort of half of the session?
Well, halfway through the session, typically the cars do come in, have a kind of a reset. You'll plug in, you'll speak to your software and your race engineer. You might want to make some setup changes. You might want some local changes, corner by corner, because they can do that via the software. And yeah, go out again, and this is a chance to cool the tyre if it needs to, because even though it is wet, by this point on the track, Lucas Di Grassi squirms around through the left-hander there down the hill. Great stuff to see him throwing it about at 41 years old. He's still got some talent left in the tank. Good to see. See, I've still got a couple of years left, Tom. Still a couple of years left in
hey,
me.
It's never too late, Sam. That's what I always say.
Exactly. He's gone green and green in the first 2 sectors. But yeah, typically, as you know, people do come in halfway through this session. It might be a case as well, because this track is a long track, they need to have a small top-up of energy halfway through the session in order to get to the end. Because they're pushing more in this session than they would do in a dry session. Dry session, you've got more cool-down laps. In this session, they might not use as much for a push lap, but they're doing more push laps.
Yeah, so Di Grassi improves, goes up to 11th quickest. This is Norman Nato that we saw earlier on in the session. He's in a full attack mode lap at this point. You can see that with the blue lights illuminating the car. Taylor Barnard, as we saw, sliding his way through. That's the fast left-handed kink of turn 8, no, for turn 6, I beg your pardon, isn't it? Just going into turn 7 where attack mode will be activated. So not much in the way of standing water out on track, but like I said, we are expecting a bit of rain going into qualifying. We're about an hour later than the normal schedule here in Formula E. Traditionally, practice kicks off at 7:30. It was 8:30 here, so everything's an hour later, and about 11 o'clock we're expecting another downpour, I understand.
That'll make qualifying really, really fun and really difficult for all these drivers.
Braking looks okay. Double check temperature on the brakes, and minimum speed turn 9 to improve.
So minimum speed turn 9. Turn 9, Tom, I think is that downhill left-hander. So that's what he needs to be focusing on. Check the brake temps. That gives you an indication that they will be using hydraulic brakes. There'll be an upper limit of what the brake caliper can achieve, but you'll want to be running close to that in these kind of conditions to get those front tyres to be working.
So yeah, Di Grassi, as you can see, very much on a cool lap at the moment. He makes his way into the pit lane now. So a bit of a lull in the session at this point, but good opportunity for us to talk about the race that we're expecting this afternoon. It's a pit boost race, and the first time ever we've had that in a single header here, James. Now, I'm keen to see how this one is going to work out, because it's a very fast circuit. There's not a lot of big stops and not a lot of opportunity for regen and energy. So are we expecting what we've referred to in the past as a peloton style race? How is that going to be managed with the pit boost?
So the pit boost creates a different strategy opportunity for the teams, especially in a race which is very energy sensitive like this track here in Jarama, where you're spending a lot of energy. There's not a huge amount of opportunity to have those big braking zones to recover it. So with the pit boost, what you get is you get the opportunity to charge the car in the middle of the race. You can choose to spend a bit more energy in the beginning, come in earlier, do your pit boost, get that extra bit of battery power and go out and try and have clear air, which I think will be the best option. It'd be great to get Sam's opinion on this. Or you can go slower and then you can take your charge later, but you risk coming back out into traffic. What do you reckon, Sam?
I'm with you. I'm with your strategy there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
A bit faster in the beginning, spend a bit of energy if you can get out front. But then it's going to be so important qualifying to be in front on this track, I think, and have that clear air, be able to set the pace in the race and really be able to structure your strategy the way that you want.
Also, if it's damp, we've seen in the damp races that qualifying is absolutely key. If you qualify at the front, you stay at the front, and there's not an awful lot of movement in the damp races. We think Formula E crazy races in the dry, so it should be absolutely mental in the wet. It's absolutely the opposite. In the wet, it calms down.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that in Miami, didn't we? I say it calms down. It did in the respect of not as much overtaking on track, but we saw
but then you look at races like Tokyo, you look at China from last year, and it's more spread out in the damp than it is in the dry.
Looking at Mortara, a man who was on pole position twice in Jeddah, still that win eluding him in the Gen 3 era. Again, you sense it's sort of on the cards because the Mahindra team have made some great strides over the course of the last couple of seasons, and Mortara certainly being the fastest of the two drivers at the moment at this stage in the season, as his teammate De Vries comes out on track. Do you think there's an opportunity here for that first victory to come their way in Spain here, James?
I definitely think so. Looking on track yesterday, the car looked really, really good in the dry. Just looked like Edo didn't quite put his lap totally together, but out on track it looked really great. And Edo's just been on scintillating form. He's delivering qualifying performances that we haven't seen that level of consistency for a long time in Formula E. And I do believe that win's going to come, but more importantly for him, he's showing such a level of maturity. He's so close to Pascal in the championship, and he's just taking those top fives every race. And I think that's going to be the key when we get to the end of the season. Yeah,
39 years of age now is Eduardo Mortara, and it seems to be like a fine wine, as you say, with the results that have come his way. 2 second-place finishes so far this season, 2 pole positions as well. He's the only driver inside the top 5, along with Oliver Roda, that hasn't actually taken a victory in the championship so far this year.
Well, without the DNF that he had in Sao Paulo, he could be leading this championship at this stage. Remember, Sao Paulo, he qualified right towards the front, as we see a huge snap of opposite lock there with him trying to generate a little bit of surface temp into the tyres going up the hill. Great to watch, but you know, that's a race where he could have got another podium.
So well, he's been,
yeah, it's Nick De Vries put stop to those hopes at turn 1 of the race, but he is a man on scintillating form, as you've said, and we do expect him to get that elusive victory at some point this year. Whether it'll be here in Madrid, I mean, we'll find out in a few hours' time.
Certainly will. Qualifying will be absolutely crucial. Top 3 rows, that's what we're expecting to be sort of the most important part of qualifying, as Mortara, well, he's getting some temperature into the tyres, and I imagine having a lot of fun doing that as well.
It looks brilliant fun out there. I mean, it's so drivable, the car, right? You can see with the electric motor, you're able to control the torque so accurately, you're able to have nice drifts in the car, build the tyre temperature, and then you can switch your mindset and really focus on maximising the grip potential you've got.
Got Nick De Vries at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, so the two Mahindra teammates out on track at the same time. Last time they were out on track together, De Vries shunted it into the wall in FP1 yesterday, so hopefully no such dramas here, as you see Mortara again still continuing to build some temperature into the tyres at this stage of the session. Dan Tictum's out on track as well, actually, in the CUPRA Kira, the quickest man from FP1 yesterday. New race engineer for him from this weekend onwards. Nico Morel, his former engineer, has left the team, has decided to move on to pastures new outside of Formula E. Mike Henderson is the temporary replacement for him for this weekend.
So we've just gone on board with Nick De Vries in the Mahindra. Big snap of oversteer there in the middle of the corner, the left-hander at the bottom of the hill. But you saw him go through attack. You saw some boxes on his dash if you were watching his steering wheel. Now, those 3 boxes went green. That means that he's activated all 3 loops on the ground. So we're expecting to see Nick De Vries next lap go into 350 kilowatt. So he'll be doing a qualifying lap now.
Yeah, blue lights now illuminated on the car, which backs up that claim. And let's see what De Vries is able to do. Currently 14th fastest, a fair old way off of the quickest time we've seen so far in this session. 3 seconds away from Da Costa's time. So De Vries comes across the timing line. Let's hopefully stick with this as we head down in towards turn 1 for the former world champion.
Nicely into turn 1 there, very early on the turn-in, but got the apex.
Yeah, coming in towards the right-hander of turns 2, then turn 3, this left-hander, very banked actually on the inside. The camera sort of removes some of the elevation that you can see on the screen, and De Vries getting a big snap of oversteer, and he's going to lose a fair amount of time as a result of that on the exit of the 3rd turn.
Almost in the wall there, Tom.
Yeah, gathered it all up okay, thankfully. Let's have a look here for Nick De Vries. So this moment on the hot lap that we saw a couple of minutes ago, just flicked it through that left-hander and got a snap of oversteer on the exit of the corner.
Not quite got enough front tyre temp, I think. Gets the understeer here in the middle of the corner, cranks on the lock, and then gets the grip, loses the rear.
Yeah, simple as that, to be honest. Right at the point of the most lateral G in the corner. He was turning back towards the apex, didn't have the front end, and his teammate is wrestling the rear through the same corner.
Yeah, so maybe a bit more tyre temperature needed for both of the Mahindra boys at the moment.
But it's good that they're doing this, though, because in qualifying, they don't have that luxury. Mortara, though, purple in Sector 1. In qualifying, you've got a 10-minute session. You've got to get on with it, so they're simulating that right now.
I think this is a very smart move by Mahindra. They've definitely gone out, as Sam just said. They've simulated the 10 minutes. You can see Edo went out, desperately trying to build tyre temperature, drifting around everywhere, activated his attack mode, and now he's really going for it and looking like the fastest man on track.
And it gets worse in the duels, Tom. As you know, you go out and you've got to push straight into 350, so the tyres will be stone cold as they go into the duels. Eduardo Mortara doing a great lap, though. 3.5 tenths up on Da Costa's time at the moment.
Yeah, he's making some good progress here, is Eduardo Mortara. Let's stick with this and see what he's able to do in this final sector of that. You can just see one of the Citroens up the road. That would be Jean-Eric Verne, who is not too far away from the Swiss driver, but just one more chicane to negotiate here for Mortara. And could this be a time topper? De Vries has gone up to second quickest. Mortara makes his way through this final chicane, which we're expecting to be a talking point, especially in the group stages of qualifying. Mortara, though, comes across the line and does go fast. He's 7 tenths of a second in front of Antonio Felix da Costa. That's a great lap time there, and that's not particularly brilliant for Dan Tictum, who's off the road on the exit of turn 1.
I wonder if he went through the gravel.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time. Let's have a look. He's on the brakes there to try and get gravel out of the car. So has he made a bit of a Horlicks of the braking zone,
yes,
down into turn 1 and straight off, as he did in practice yesterday afternoon.
It's the similar line.
It is. He's I mean, maybe that's his plan.
Oh,
he's going to be lucky to get out of that, isn't he? Oh, God.
Wow. I mean, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, they get twice off at the same corner. Let's have a look. Yeah, just too much speed going into it, couldn't slow the car down, and then drifting his way through the gravel trap. The CUPRA Kiro team won't be thanking him too much for that, because there'll be gravel to pull out of all sorts of different orifices.
They won't mind if he ends up the session fastest, which is exactly what he did yesterday. He went through the gravel 2 laps later, pops in a lap time that nobody could get anywhere near. So watch out for Dan Tictum for the rest of the session. Currently down in 18th, but we would expect someone of his talent, and given the powertrain he's got, to be moving much further and higher up this order.
Riding on board here with Jake Dennis, currently down in 17th fastest. Andretti, of course, a team that have got a lot of history at this circuit. Mario Andretti actually said that this is one of his favourite Formula 1 racetracks in years gone by. Of course, the rookie test is taking place here this weekend as well, after the race here tomorrow. And Callum Boyson is one of the drivers who will be competing for the Andretti team. Georgia was down in pit lane earlier on this morning, and caught up with the rookie driver making his debut around this circuit.
And it's a good time to talk that we have the rookie test tomorrow. So I'm here with Callum Boyce, and he's going to be driving for Andretti tomorrow. Out here watching practice, what are you thinking?
Well, at the moment it's pretty cold and wet, but hopefully tomorrow should be a bit better. The weather's looking a little bit nicer, but no, I'm extremely excited. It looks like an awesome track, very fast and flowing for Formula E standards, that's for sure. So yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. This
is not your first time getting in a Formula E car, so what does the opportunity mean to you to get back in, especially with a team like Andretti?
I think that's the main point, you know, to do it with a team like Andretti, you know, with such a rich history, you know, and you know, such success in this series, I think is you know, a real honor. And yeah, you know, I drove a Formula E car last year in the Berlin rookie test, and it went pretty well. So I was itching to get back in one, and you know, to have the chance to do it with Andretti is for sure very special.
Callum's back in the FE paddock. He's going to be driving the 28 car tomorrow. Keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, good to hear there from Callum Boyson, making his debut around this Harama circuit, but as Georgia said, not his debut in the Formula E car. Looking here at Dan Tictum, who's going to get held up by Felipe Drugovich.
Pepe Marti, I
beg your pardon, isn't he? Yeah, coming out of this final chicane. Let's see what Marti can do, despite that traffic in the second and indeed the final sector. Goes up to 6th quickest, but still 1.5 seconds shy. Now we cross to Marti's teammate, Dan Tictum, who, as we saw, taking a trip through the gravel a few moments ago, fighting a bit of oversteer through turn 10 here. Stands it all up okay, though.
Yeah, looking at the first two sectors, he's looking okay. Not brilliant. No purple sectors at the moment. Somebody who is going purple, though, is Nick de Vries. 8/10 to the good in Sector 1 alone, Tom.
Yeah, that's phenomenal there for Nick de Vries. Clearly, he's got the temperature in the tyres, unlike we saw from him a few minutes ago. Tictum goes up to second quickest, half a second away still from Eduardo Mortara. That's a phenomenal lap, just really does cement how impressive that was from the Swiss driver.
Well, Nick de Vries now is going to absolutely pummel that. Track is coming to these drivers. He's 1.1 seconds up the road on his teammates' time with a sector to go.
Yeah, this is great stuff here from Nick de Vries. Through turn 10, late apex through here. Running it wide to the curb on the outside. Turn 11, that fast right-hander, not much in the way of oversteer through there, thankfully for him. Comes down in towards this last chicane where you can see the hallmarks of the crash that he had in FP1 yesterday. No such bother here at the end of FP2, though. De Vries is going to absolutely shatter the time screens as he comes across the line, nearly a second faster than his teammate Eduardo Mortara. Absolutely phenomenal here from the two Mahindra boys. Nick de Vries leading his teammates.
Yeah, as Mortara has a big snap at the top of the hill there, the furthest part away from where we're sat in the commentary booth. But Nick de Vries' lap, it was brilliant until the last sector, and then he just looked clumsy through the final chicane, clonked the second phase of the curb, and lost a load of time. I reckon he'd be looking at about 1.3 seconds up the road if he'd got that right.
See Jake Dennis on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Keep an eye on the British driver. He's down in 18th fastest, but it's on a full attack mode lap at the moment with the 350 kilowatts and the all-wheel drive. Just under 4 minutes now left of free practice 2, and we're starting to see these qualifying sims really coming in. This is sort of a preparation for the dual stages of qualifying later on this morning here in Madrid, so that's why the times are really beginning to tumble. There's quite a big field spread at the moment, but give it a couple of minutes and I'm sure that'll be coming down in spades. Tictum, the only driver out of the 20 that is now in the pit lane at this stage of the session, so that might be an early end for the British driver. Meanwhile, on board we ride here with Jake Dennis coming in towards turn 9.
Yeah, traffic with his teammate there. No, not his teammate, sorry, the Lola Yamaha. Not sure who that was, maybe Maloney, getting ready for a push lap. Quite a few people now going into push 350s, Tom. You've got Cassidy, Drogovic, Evans, Dennis. So these times are going to come thick and fast now. Also Taylor Barnard pushing.
Yeah, we'll see how this works out. De Vries has gone into the pit lane then as well. So Dennis into the last chicane. Just up the road from him, you've got Nico Müller, who's about to begin another push lap here. It's actually on a push lap, I beg your pardon. So let's see what Müller can do. Dennis goes up to 5th fastest. That's a bit more like it for Jake Dennis and for the Andretti team. Günther goes into 10th there as well in the first of the DS Penskes. His teammate Taylor Barnard not too far away and will be coming across the line. Barnard goes up into 2nd. That's lovely there from Taylor Barnard. Still 9/10 of a second away though from that time we saw from Nick de Vries as Drogovic also improves here, James.
Yeah, Nick de Vries just so fast in that sector 1. The other sectors he's not got the same advantage over the rest of the field, but I don't know what he did in sector 1 to deliver that time. He's 8/10 faster just in sector 1 alone.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff there from Nick de Vries. He's decided to call an early end to FP2 as we look here at Nick Cassidy, a man who is not afraid of making his way up through the field in Formula E. He often hasn't qualified that well this season, but the results have come his way quite nicely. I wonder if that will be the case here today. So team radio from him.
Did we change something on traction? Normally no.
But maybe not happy with the balance of the car.
Maybe not. Maybe the track is now getting to a stage where it might be turning a bit greasy, or in the opposite direction, it might be just getting better and he's noticing a better traction phase in his car. So Pascal Wehrlein slowing down, just trying to get a little bit of gap between himself and the cars in front with only 1 minute and 26 seconds remaining. This is going to be his final push lap of the session, and it's going to be a push. Is it, yeah, push 350 for Pascal Wehrlein.
Yeah, so full attack mode lap then for him. A couple of spots of rain I just saw on the camera lens going through at that final chicane. Müller improves up to 2nd quickest, 0.3 of a second now away from Nick de Vries. So that's a bit more like it there for Nico Müller, and a bit sort of similar of what we're expecting the field spread to be here towards the end of this session.
The other thing that we can see on the timing sheets is that Felipe Drogovic, a man that was so close to pole position in Miami, yet again in these damp cold conditions, beating his illustrious teammate Jake Dennis for the best part of the entire session.
Still pointless in season 12 is Felipe Drugovich. The only points he's had in his Formula E career was when he was with Mahindra in Berlin last year.
Norman Nato goes P1, Tom, out of nowhere. The Nissan car coming alive at the end of this session.
Phenomenal stuff there from Norman Nato. Slowest yesterday in FP1, quickest so far with just 20 seconds or so left on the clock here in FP2. That's backed up by Roland popping himself into 4th quickest. You can see the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen. If the names are flashing in pink, it does mean they're in a full 350 attack mode lap, and that's where we'll expect these times to really begin to tumble. Wehrlein, personal best in Sector 1, personal best for him in Sector 2. Needs it as well because he's only 12th fastest, now to make that 13th fastest in this session so far.
Felipe Drugovich is on a very, very nice lap. He's fastest of everyone so far after the first sector.
Maloney goes up to 10th quickest as the checkered flag is now out at the end of FP2. What, though, can Pascal Wehrlein do? He was about 0.3 of a second faster in Sector 1 relative to Jake Dennis, who is his nearest rival in terms of position out there on track. Wehrlein's going to come across the line, take the checkered flag here in FP2, and he goes into 8th fastest. What about Jake Dennis in the Porsche-powered Andretti? Driver's eye view as he negotiates his way out of that final chicane, comes across the line here for Jake Dennis, and he goes up to 5th fastest.
His teammate could be on for the best time of the session here. The Felipe Drugovich is a little bit up on Norman Nato's time after 2 sectors.
2DS Penske's Barnard and Gunter about to take the checkered flag there as well. Barnard 5th fastest for him. Gunter not too far down the road as we ride on board with him. He's lost time though and backed out of that final sector, so finishes 16th fastest, and Drugovich does improve a 10th of a second in front of Norman Nato. That's a phenomenal time from the young Brazilian as he improves at the end of the session to go to the top of the order. What about Nick Cassidy, complaining about rear traction a few moments ago on team radio, but makes an improvement at the end and goes up into 4th with the quickest final sector. Vern out of nowhere as well, his teammate goes up into 2nd.
Yeah, the track is definitely ramping up at the end of this session. It's just getting better and better. People on push 350s at the end of the session, absolutely maximising these track conditions. You'd like to think, though, that De Vries and Mortara are looking very strong, though, for qualifying.
Vern just improved his lap time by 4 seconds from his previous best lap. How did he do that?
Very impressive. Black and white flag there for Taylor Barnard. He was noted by the stewards for impeding in that session. Something to keep an eye on when we go into the group stages of qualifying in particular, especially that final chicane. But this man here, Felipe Drugovich, well, he was exceptional in the mixed conditions that we had in Miami, just missing out on pole.
He charged through into the lead of the race, built himself up a gap. He didn't understand really that he didn't need to make a gap in an energy-sensitive race, but the performance is definitely there, and that was a brilliant lap. He was great in all 3 sectors, so looking strong going into qualifying.
Surprised by Jaguar, actually. Da Costa in 13th, Evans down in 18th fastest. We're right on board here now with Mitch Evans. This might tell a bit of a tale as to why the Kiwi was so low, and he has a run-off quite significantly down at turn 1.
Yeah, he's gone to Barcelona at turn 1, hasn't he? That's the deepest we've seen anybody get in the gravel trap. Yeah, very strange from Jaguar. They're normally super competitive in these kind of conditions, but you look at this timing sheet, guys, and I've got no idea who's going to be on pole position, because it all depends on just getting it right for that one lap. We've seen fast people make mistakes or get it not go out at the right time. We've seen unfancied people right up there, people that were nowhere for 39 minutes of that session come and be in the top 2. It's been a wild session.
Okay, back to mode 13 for practice start. This is purple sector 3. Purple 3. It's a good lap. Good so far.
Yep, that's a proper good lap. Yep.
Andreas Castillo, race engineer there for Felipe Drugovich, just telling him purple sector 3 and to get it into the right mode for this practice start. Let's see what the traction's like away from the grid in these damp conditions. Nicely done there for Felipe Drugovich. That's from the front row. He'll be hoping to line up on the front row tomorrow. Don't worry about...
today, I hope.
I beg your pardon, sorry. It's been an early start to the morning. Just see Nick De Vries making his way away from the grid.
I'm really excited for this qualifying session.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracker, isn't it? Let's get confirmation of the results then from FP2 here in Madrid. So Felipe Drugovich goes to the top of the order right at the end of that session, in front of the two Frenchmen, Jean-Eric Vergne and Norman Nato. De Vries heading Mahindra's charge from 4th place ahead of Nick Cassidy. Then it's Nico Müller and Sebastian Buemi. Taylor Barnard, Jake Dennis and Ollie Rowland, the trio of Britons completing the top 10 in 8th, 9th and 10th place there respectively. No particular outlier inside that top 10 in terms of powertrain, manufacturers or anything of the like really, so properly unpredictable going into quali. Eduardo Mortara, who was so fast for the majority of that session, ends up 11th quickest when all is said and done, ahead of the former world champion Pascal Wehrlein. Problems though for Jaguar, 13th and 18th there for Da Costa and Evans respectively, giving them a bit of a cause for concern going into quali. And likewise for the two CUPRA Kiros, they were quickest yesterday in the hands of Dan Tictum, but ending up the session outside of the top 10 in 15th and 16th place there respectively. So maybe a bit of work to do and a few setup changes going into qualifying later on here today.
Good session from that man, Norman Nato in the Nissan. A man that needs to score some points, only got 1 point on the board at the moment, but that will give his confidence a heck of a boost. Oh,
likewise, this man here, Jean-Eric Vergne. It's been a tough start to life for him at the Citroën team this season. 10 points in 5 races. His worst start to the year since season 2, back in 2015. So really would love to get a strong result here in Madrid. If for nothing else, just a bit of confidence, really. Sebastian Buemi also making his way down towards the FIA weighbridge. He's been on great form so far this season. Really good consistency in that Envision car. And he'll be hoping for a bit more of the same here as he ends the session 7th. Meanwhile, Mitch Evans, well, the face paints a bit of a picture there, I think. He doesn't look particularly pleased walking his way down.
No, he doesn't. He's a guy that expects to be fighting for poles, fighting for wins. Obviously got the record amount of wins in Formula E history, and he is a guy that does not want to be or expect to be down in 18th. So work to do for the Jaguar boys.
Dan Tictum making his way down there as well. And you can see a bit of a long face on him as well. Quickest in FP1 yesterday. And the mixed conditions here for free practice 2, sadly, not the same there for him so far.
They all look miserable, don't they?
They do a bit. Maybe it's the weather.
Cheer up, guys.
I don't know, Felipe might look all right. He could have a bit of a smile on his face.
Oh, yeah, and understandably so, given that performance. Makes his way out of the car, walks his way down the pit lane then.
So they're all going to check their weight, for you that are watching this at home and wondering why. Because the weight of the driver plus the car must be at the minimum limit. So they need to check themselves this morning in case they weigh slightly different than yesterday.
So, highlights then from FP2 in the damp and cold conditions here this morning on Saturday in Madrid. Saw us with a pretty frantic start to life, with drivers out on track, getting temperature into the tyres, sliding their way around the circuit. We saw a few off-track excursions, including for this man here, Jake Dennis. He ran on down at the first corner. Nico Müller, meanwhile, was making some progress out on track as he went around the outside of Jean-Eric Vergne in a full attack mode lap. And we also saw Oliver Rowland just exploring the limits of this circuit. I have to say, despite the mixed conditions, it was a very fun and exciting session just to watch drivers and their brilliant car control.
It's such a challenge round here, isn't it? I mean, the circuit with all the undulation, beautiful, fast-flowing corners. It's a really exciting place to be racing for me.
Yeah, this was Taylor Barnard who was sliding his way through. This was Lucas Di Grassi, who was another driver that ran on down at the first corner, but managed to live and fight another day. We saw some great drone shots as well as the Mahindras made their way around the circuit. It was Nick De Vries who was so fast at the end of the session, not on this occasion because he ran a little bit wide down at turn 3, and likewise Dan Tictum repeated what he did in FP1, going off onto the gravel. He made a mistake down at the first corner. We also saw the same there for Mitch Evans late in the session, which is why the New Zealand driver was not able to make an improvement. But Felipe Drugovich was the quickest man at the end of free practice 2. I have to say, just looking at the forecast, light snow and light winds expected.
Light snow?
Yeah, in the next couple of hours, 1 degree outside as well.
So people who are new to Formula E, we had 5 years, 5 seasons of no rain, And all of a sudden, last year and this year, the weather's just been wild.
I don't know what sort of ladders Jeff Dodds has been walking under, but they certainly seem to be one that's affecting the weather, James.
I don't know, I'm enjoying the different conditions. I mean, yesterday we got to see the cars in the dry, today we get to see them in the wet, and who knows what we're going to see in the race this afternoon.
Well, hopefully we'll see this man here fighting for pole position once again. We'd love to get his checkbook opened and the points tally off to a start here, Felipe Drugovich. And if the performance of FP2 is anything to go by, he is in with a very good shout of challenging for pole here. Quickest man from FP2 is Felipe Drugovich. We bring an end to free practice 2 though. Qualifying gets underway at 10:40 local time. We will see you then. Thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to qualifying.